So thank you to everyone who's joined us today. My name is Esther Karaoke. I'm the head of the Centonomy Campus Edition program. Thank you for joining us again. If you had joined us on the Centonomy Campus Edition page, because we had experienced a bit of some technical difficulties, but today we are going to discuss youth in media, how to get started and identify growth opportunities in the media industry. So Jessie, maybe you could just introduce yourself and maybe give a background to, what you've done so far, how long it has been. Basically just introduce yourself and let people know who you are. Yes.
Okay. Well, as it's been mentioned time and time again, my name is Jesse Rogers. I currently work with the Standard Group PLC, which KTN News and KTN Home is a subsidiary of it. I work as a reporter and a news anchor. So basically, I'm a youth in media. And I'm here to sell the dream that, we can definitely make it. I've seen a couple of questions popping up that, on whether you need to have someone in the company or connections and all that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a living example of not really needing such. Because there's a talent out there, and I'm sure this media houses are definitely looking to buffer up their team. So it's basically how you present yourself to them. And that's why we're here. We'll definitely get into the journey, or at least part of it, of the transition from perhaps a campus TV station to a national TV station, and such challenges along the road. So I'm sure it'll be beneficial to feel free to ask as many questions as possible.
All right, so we're just going to get started, on, how did you join the media industry? Because, I know you are in KU and I was in KU at the same time when KU TV was starting, and that's where you started, right? Yes.
True.
How did you join KU TV initially?
I wish it was all rosy and everything that they came looking for me, but KUTV was a brainchild of the previous chancellor. I'm sure you know her. She was known as Professor Olive Maganda. She was the vice chancellor there. It was started at around 2015, and I happened to join campus just a little bit earlier. So what happened is, media was sort of a passion. It's not just a way to pay the bills or get your name known out there, So it started as co-curricular activity. When I'm not in class, I needed to look for something to do. We all did side hustles and whatnot. So I just happened to try my luck, first of all, at radio, because when you converse with your friends, you get to hear, hey, you too, hey, English, So it's just these small things that you try, and since there are auditions at, it was called KU radio station. Initially, that's where I started. I used to do a show in the evening between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. each and every evening. So when guys are going to have fun, I was talking to the audience, the limited audience at our campus radio station. And when the TV started, I threw myself in the court again and went for the auditions. It didn't all start with news at first. I found myself in entertainment, believe it or not. So, the journey, as they say, it's quite long. So started in entertainment and then definitely pushed my way and was able to start doing a little bit of pieces here and there, news-related pieces, and that's how I actually decided that this is the area I'd like to specialize on, especially this early as possible, get to do as many stories with that particular platform. So basically, how I joined KUTV, I saw posters and the auditions were going on, so why not? Definitely jumped on it, but it's been a journey, I must say. You definitely learn along the way.
Yeah, and that's great because someone asked, how do you identify these auditions? And I think people look at the big TV stations and see, you've got to start with auditions up there, but check like auditions in your school, because right now so many universities have TV stations. I can see some people who like apply to join school TV station, like in a school that they are not in. So don't
Yeah.
feel limited, guys. But I'm sure you had certain expectations when joining KUTV. Were those
Quite
expectations
so.
met? And what were those expectations? You want to know?
Well, expectations. I was a young person by then. I was still young, definitely. But when you
Yeah.
join media, I think there's this allure that I want to be famous. I won't lie.
Yes.
I wanted to be famous. I wanted to be that, walk into a room and everyone definitely recognizes who you are.
Yes.
Uh, so I think that was part and parcel the expectation, number one. Number
Mm-hmm.
two, I also expected fast money,
Yes.
really fast money, because with the expectation of walking into a room and everyone seems to recognize you, then you need to
Yeah.
look the part, and there's this common misdemeanor that, media is basically limited to visuals, what we see on TV, how you're
Yes.
dressed and everything. So I entered having those expectations that I'll be the sharpest, most dressed, best speaking English news anchor out there. But
Yeah.
what I got to learn, there's a lot that goes into the background. And this is my advice to perhaps the young minds who might be watching right now with an interest in joining media. Don't chase the hype. If the hype
Yeah.
chases you, that's totally fine. Because when you look at the basic tenets of journalism, the reason perhaps I was picked would be the work you put in. Apart from the hype and being on
Mm-hmm.
TV or billboards left, right, and center, it's a dedication that will actually convince the employer that, hey, this is a young mind, yes, only youth,
Yes.
barely any experience, just in a campus
Mm-hmm.
TV station, or you've done your internship here or there in various media stations as well. But what sets you apart is the work you do. So
Mm-hmm.
if you can put a catalog of your stories, and that's where I'll rebuff what you said. If
Mm-hmm.
it's not possible to join a major leading TV station at the moment, I think it would be proper to start at the young and upcoming TV station so you can actually get a
Yes.
proper foundation and you get to know what really takes in this space called journalism. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about the hype. It's definitely work related, and your employer expects certain results. And trust you me, it's not just limited to the number of followers you have on social
Yeah.
media. Yeah, yeah.
So you mentioned about the money. Did the money come in KUTV? Because as we are in KUTV, you'll see better in KU we have billboards. So hi KU alumni or whoever.
What's up?
Yeah, but you used to see on the on the KU like billboards, and you're like, that person must be earning a lot of money. Well, did the money come? I always wanted to ask that.
Well, how do I explain this? Your image is used by, okay, when you enter media, the
Yes.
image you portray is used by the company. So the money comes later. I will not lie. Like the
Yeah.
billboards were purely advertisement to, promote the
Yeah.
KUTV brand and all that. I don't know why they picked this familiar face, but they went with this one most definitely. But the money, well, it's just like any other career. You definitely have to put in work.
Yes.
At KTV, I can definitely tell you there are times, you'd get a stipend at the end of the day, but I
Yeah.
mean, you can definitely go. You need more money. Money is never enough. I mean,
Yeah.
it's never enough. So if your motivation is just the money factor, well,
Mm-hmm.
for some people, it might take time, for others, even longer. But if it takes shorter for you,
Yeah.
that's fine. For me, it was a journey and a half. Being on billboards in KU didn't really add too much sense in my pocket, but it added sense here.
All right, that's great. And I can see someone who's commented, that's Dennis Omondi. He says he's currently working at KU Radio, and as he continues with his media course, he has to confess that you, Noah Kipkemboi, Nancy Okwara, and others who have come out of KUTV and radio services keep him there. So that's amazing, because, sometimes we look at those people who've come before us and we are able to see, what they've done, and we know where we can get. And so what are like the main lessons you came out of with, or rather you came out with from KUTV? Yes,
the main lessons, well, there were so many lessons, apparently, because this was my first stint with what you'd call proper journalism. And yes, so my expectations were definitely shifted. It shifted from, how many people know me to how many people really listened to the story. You might meet people in the street, but they didn't, you're a familiar face, but did you deliver the message home? You get? So it's not just about face value. There is so much that goes into it. That's one thing I learned, actually putting in the work. Number two, just the same way with what people might mention as, the expectation that comes with being a public figure or being in the limelight, is you definitely can't live to people's expectations one way or the other. Your work in progress, it takes time, especially being a youth out here, and these are tough times, so you might get an opportunity to definitely work with a media station, but at the end of the day, it's your stories that will sell. They will actually build your name. So as much as you might be on radio, like our friend who just mentioned he's on radio, as much as you might be on radio, try and do a little bit more extra to sell your name, get in touch with the fan base at KU FM or different platforms, wherever you are. And by getting in touch is definitely, will have a listening ear at the end of the day, because our work is to simply convey to the public what exactly is happening in terms of human interest stories, political, and the like. So you really have to have your ear to the ground so you don't get disattached with what's currently happening. So always having your ear to the ground, that's definitely something I learned. Also being grounded, well, at least we try. Yes, and the work ethic. Definitely. It's not just about the good suits on air or the wide smile or the makeup. It definitely puts in a lot of work. So to grow a brand and to compete with bigger or similar brands out there, you definitely need to put twice the amount of work. So basically it's just the work ethic and the mental awareness of expectations versus reality, what's expected of you as a youth in media, and what you can actually deliver. So that's basically what I learned.
Amazing. How was that, transition from KUTV to KTN? Like, what happened? Because we just started seeing you on KTN, and you're like, hiya, Jesse's on KTN. So how was that transition like?
Well, I'll tell the story in between. Well, it just didn't happen. It wasn't clockwork. Someone at KTN was watching the TV and said, I want this guy. Let's go poach him. That's the general perception, but it really doesn't work that way. I'll tell you for free that wasn't the first place I'd gone to, audition or to, drop my papers and everything. I've been to a couple of those leading media houses, and they'd ask, "What? You're so small. Have you even finished school? Why are you pushing so hard?" So you definitely need to want it as much as they want you. So they look for that hunger, the drive. And I think that's the best selling point as young individuals, the hunger, the drive, because they'll see it right into they'll see right into it, and they'll definitely want to tap it. It doesn't happen the first time. I had a couple of auditions. Well, they didn't go so well. But I think it's the urgency, the sense of urgency that I really need this to work. I've put in too much time and dedication. And one or the other, it definitely did end up working. Because what
Yes.
happened is there were auditions at KTN, and they usually put it up in case of any vacancies. So I just applied it. I was like, I just been declined at, was it Media Max? Yes. So I just put it up briefly, and who knew? I mean, it went through. I presented myself, and this time round, I knew what exactly the employers look for, and I tried to align myself to it. You know, the confidence. If you're going for a news anchoring position, I think I'd give you one because you're quite confident even with asking questions. You see, so it's the confidence. Yeah, so basically, it was a journey, I must say, but at the end of the road, once it definitely works, it substantiates why you put so much effort into it. Yeah.
So you mentioned about competition, and someone had asked earlier, they've seen a lot of people, getting cut out of the media houses that they work in during this COVID season and also pre-COVID. So what will you say you are doing to stay relevant so that in such times you're not, kicked out? Yeah.
Well, this is quite true. And I must say, it's not just the media industry that's been affected with the turbulence that's been brought forth by the pandemic, but we're definitely receiving a brunt of it because, I mean, it's sad to see colleagues or partners in various TV stations actually get declared redundant and all that. So competition and staying relevant is something that you need to have in mind constantly in case media is your thing. And I try to slow down just to let that point sink in. Because, I mean, you're only as good as your last story. You're only as good as your last bulletin. Because tomorrow we work with what's happening right here, right now, in terms of relevance. What I do to stay relevant, I ensure I'm seen as much as possible. It depends with the work output. Because if I was at work today and I didn't submit a story, and I just happened to exist, flying on the brand that was built when I joined a while back, that definitely won't be enough to substantiate why I'm actually there. So the good thing with media, and I must say this, once you get an opportunity, you can actually diverse and figure yourself out, get to know what exactly you can zone on into. If it's just anchoring, because we have very passionate anchors who are quite good with their questions, and we have investigative journalists who will do a piece and you'll be like, hey, it'll be trending on Twitter day in, day out. So it's actually thinking outside the box. Yes, they're established brands already in the industry, but it's the extra effort you put in, because we cannot, as youth in media, these are established brands right here, and we are definitely trying to get to their level. You might not get the opportunity you want, but you make work with the little that's there and do it to the best of your ability as much as possible. Like the various shows we do, Friday Briefing and the likes, it depends with the, it's garbage in, garbage out. One thing about Kenyans, you cannot lie to them, so they will see.
For sure.
Yes, watajua na utaniko, one or the other. So, so it's the amount of work you put in. I think that's the only way you can definitely stay afloat above the competition. Yeah.
All right. And I've seen a question by Farzana. What do you mean by specialization?
Specialization. Well, in the media industry, specialization would be applied in terms of the features. If you're a reporter, if you want to specialize in anchoring. But one thing about anchoring, and I know this is the best. I mean, when I grew up and I wanted to join media, my goal was to be an anchor, to be the face that is usually seen. You get, and I'm sure most people resonate with that dream. But the harsh reality is, it's a process. It is a process. You have to prove yourself over and over again to be trusted as the brand that will convey the news on a certain media station. So yeah, so it's all up to you. Many people have different paths. Many start as reporters, build a brand, work their way up until now they are, dedicated anchors. But most likely, like personally for me, since I got the chance to anchor quite young, I now try and juggle between reporting and anchoring. So it's taking as much work as possible and making yourself busy. I think that's basically it. Yeah.
Yes, not being lazy, guys. Guys, you can't be lazy in the media industry.
It's crazy,
yes, I've seen a question from Cindy. She's asked, has social media negatively impacted the stories the traditional media tell? And let me couple it with a question I've just remembered that was asked in the previous IG live, where someone was asking about, we are moving to the digital space and some traditional media rules are getting like redundant. Maybe you could speak into that as well as you answer Cindy.
Well, changes are definitely being felt, and social media has impacted the most change because back in the day, traditional media, TV, print, radio were instrumental in conveying, day-to-day current affairs. But with the entrance of social media, it's definitely disrupted, and various companies are trying to see the way around it. I'll personally speak for Standard through the newspaper, because do you read the newspaper, if I may ask, and how frequently?
So funny enough, how I follow the newspaper on an app where I just check like the updates and then I'll click on the stories that I'm most interested in, but I won't buy the physical newspaper.
And these are the shifts that media houses are trying to work with, because the revenue brought from selling papers was definitely substantial in the day-to-day running. So when we have a shift in young minds, and remember Kenya and Africa in general generally has a youthful population, and not everyone will be inclined to read a newspaper. So what various companies are doing are trying to create platforms just like the one you've mentioned, where you can actually convey news easily. We're trying to converge, I think that's what they call it, because if you notice, most of the bulletins are usually streamed online on YouTube, Facebook Live, some. Then the updates are quite timely as well on Twitter and Instagram and the likes. So it's definitely a disruption, social media, and this disruption might prove to be a proper entry point to younger minds as well. So you can definitely look for a way to use this to get to where you actually want, because believe it or not, whether we like it or not, the digital desk in various media industries is instrumental in the day-to-day running, considering that this is the 21st century. Social media is with us, whether we like it or not. So that would be a proper entry point. If there's something you can focus on in terms of digital media, then I think that would actually push the case even further.
Yeah, and that's amazing. Actually, the app I was going to say was Telegram. Then the name just left my mind while I was talking about it. Yeah, but you see now, since they post, you just join it as a group. So I think the other question is, I have from Queen COX. Yes, I have classmates that. I have classmates that together we are torn whether keeps disappearing, whether to specialize in PR and electronic media. What's so good about both that will make one choose that specific career path in media? Yes.
Just come again. I'm trying to look for the question. Just kindly repeat it. Yeah.
I found it. I have classmates that together we are torn whether to specialize in PR and electronic media. What's so good about both that will make one choose that specific career path in media?
Well, everything has its pros and cons. I think that's a very tricky question. And I wouldn't want to, give you my take and misguide you. Perhaps that would be, electronic media is your passion and not PR and all that. But at the end of the day, irrespective of whichever route you take, I think as long as you know yourself, because if I may ask, what did you study? Did you study for whatever we're doing right now, whatever you're doing right now?
I did biotechnology in KU, and right now I'm in a whole different space. I'm in marketing, and that's it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I might use that as an example as well, because there's so many subs we can actually get into when we're talking about media, with the electronic, print, and everything, and PR as well. But it now depends with an individual, because each and every field has its pros and cons. If you look at the electronic, well, it's definitely proper, and going forward, it's meant to even become buffered up because of the digital shift that most countries are going with. But PR, remember, each and every company needs a PR, a PR specialist. So this, it depends with your personal the view of how media is and what impact you want to, put in media. So whether it's in electronic or PR, I wouldn't advise you not to choose one. Just ask around and make an informed decision. Guys who are already there, I'd speak about, media and TV and all that. But in terms of PR, I might not be sure. Yeah.
All right. So we have another question, which is very tricky. I don't know whether you'll answer, but from Kivuva, he's asking, does media ownership impact how news stories are framed and primed?
Well, it's definitely tricky, but I think one of the most important things in a society is the independence of the fourth estate. And I think that is mentioned time and time again. You cannot gag the media, and that's why in terms of legislation, we are buffered up. In terms of public awareness, we're also buffered up. So the independence of the media is key to the proper day-to-day running of various services in the country. Because one thing, we're the one who bring it to the limelight, tutanika, as many youth like calling it, tutanika, or to make sure we tell the real story. I will not lie, media ownership does affect how news stories are framed. And I'll use a case example with perhaps the political climate in the country. It might be, it's a very hot topic, I will not lie, but this definitely does, one way or the other, play a part in how stories are framed. Because at the end of the day, the company is definitely, whether public or private, definitely has its orders and the owners, but it does not get in the way of stories going on air. That I definitely assure you, would not gag just because so-and-so might own a certain media station and it touches on him. That is rarely the case. The story does go on air, but these challenges are there, I must say. Just like in any other field, when it might paint an employer in a bad light, they wouldn't want that, and that's why we have to continuously fight for the independence of media, because the balance in society definitely does play a part. This is an essential service. At the end of the day, Kenyans need to be informed about what's happening or what's not happening. So it's a challenge, yes, but with the rules and the guidelines in place, I think it just remains a challenge at the end of the day. Yeah.
All right, Kivuva, I hope you've answered your question. So another question is, are there forums for campus media students where they can have mentors like you guys and engage with them?
Well, personally, I did not pass through the hands of a mentor, especially while in campus. And I think this is a missing link, because if you look at most questions, it's you can tell these individuals are informed, yes, They just need help getting from this level to the next level. They know their stuff already, you know. So with mentors in campus, that's quite a challenge, I must say, because what usually happens, it's a personal initiative. Like since I studied in KU and since you studied in KU, we come together and we're making an impact in society as it is. We try and bring up the young individuals. So I'd be saying it's a challenge in terms of whatever's happening in terms of mentoring young minds. But I mean, we're here. So in case you definitely need a chance or a question or something, you can definitely pose a question to me, and I'll definitely try and help as much as possible. Whoever you look up to, one way, yes, we're in the public limelight, but we went through the same challenges you might be going through right now. And I mean, we're not oblivious to the fact that we're all trying to grow. And a candle does not go off by lighting another candle. So always feel free to approach, even though they might be busy and all that. Definitely pose a question, because that's how it should be. I was actually taking a look at one of the questions already posed by, it was Brian, and we're talking about the challenges put forth with digital space, you know, with the influencers and the likes getting jobs and all that. It's usually a pain, I know, for the media degree holders and the diploma holders and all that. You've spent so much time studying for this, and then at the end of the day, you see an influencer getting a certain position that you might have been aiming for. So my simple advice is, if you cannot compete in terms of building a brand, you know, selling a brand at the end of the day, then you compete with what you know. Because at the end of the day, it's what you provide that actually sells you. It's not the papers as such, but what you can do out of everything you studied. You get, so don't expect to have the paper, and that is a sure, definite chance that you'll be picked and an influencer won't. At the end of the day, they have the brand and the visibility. At the end of the day, what do you have that you can sell? There will be an added advantage to the company that is looking to build their own brand as such, you get. So that would be an interesting point to look at it.
All right. So I've just seen some questions that have come in after I've joined again. Sorry. So joining in a little late, but great conversation. Watched you a couple of times and I admire your work and the whole media team. Also, Centonomy are always paving the way for open-mindedness. Thank you for that. So another question is, does the influencer go with a whole resume when they get called for an interview? I don't know whether that's what you had answered.
Does the if the influencer goes, let me just try to. Well, their resume might be different. I wouldn't speak in terms of being an influencer, definitely. But when a company, when a media station or a radio station, because I'm sure they'll ask you about radio most definitely, because that's where we see it most often. When a radio station approaches an influencer, we know their names, we know who they are. They have a brand. The visibility is what that particular radio station is trying to jump on so that they can sell their products, you know, so that I'll listen to Radio Maisha and not Classic. So I'll listen to Kiss and not, you know, the NRG and all that. So we try, and what the media does, you put an individual right there who is supposed to relate with the audience back at home. So trust you me, as much as many people might like KTN, if they do not relate with me, every moment I'll come on air, watapata tu switch. It's as easy as getting the remote and switching. Or radio station is even worse. It's, you know, you can easily change the station. So they try and bring in a brand. So in terms of coming with a resume, they will say, I have so-and-so followers behind me. I can bring this certain type of visibility and so-and-so. And that's where the challenge usually is, you know, because I will come from school with my papers and a dream that I want to be a radio presenter. And that is a challenge. So what happens if you cannot compete with them? Look for a place to start, and that's why we've talked about KUTV and starting from the grassroots if you can, you know. And a different issue with radio as well is the voice aspect. You know, you have to sound the part. So there's so many things that are looked at. But at the end of the day, your resume is not just your papers and everything. It's so many factors. How you present yourself, this definitely matters. Your voice, if you're going into radio. But if you cannot compete on that basis, not everyone on radio has the best voice. Trust you me.
Yes.
But in terms of content, you can get a niche. That might be your niche, your cutting edge, and you might sell yourself through that. So just look for ways, because the media world is diversifying. Don't limit yourself to what you've had outside there. If you really want this, well, you can ask for help left, right, and center. We might help in any way we can, but the dream has to start from you. That, the drive, the ambition. It's all up to,
Actually, you know, you've answered one part of our question, the question that I was just going to mention next about whether the voice matters, because someone has mentioned, like, is it like having an accent or something that gets accepted? Because she's seen in radio that they just don't take any voice. Yes.
Yes, just as we mentioned before, you have to be presentable. Back at home, what the employer is thinking as they're trying to see whether you fit in that position or not, is whether the mother, the grandmother seated back at home will want to watch you at the end of the day and not switch to a different TV station, because it's as easy as pressing the dial. So what do you bring on the table? At the end of the day, if it's anchoring you're actually interested in, it's not just going there and reading news. What extra do you bring? Is it your personality? Is it the interviewing skills? Is it, I don't know, is it your content base? You know, because we know certain anchors are really known to know their stuff, you know, and that's their selling points. If you look at the likes of Hussein Mohammed and the likes, you know, so that sells them. You can definitely look for our something to sell you, but you don't need to have the best voice. Yes, do have a voice. It's very important.
Yes.
The narrative skills and all that. But at the end of the day, there has to be something a little bit more. It's not just talent. Talent without hard work. Yeah.
Doesn't like really go through, right?
Yes, it's just talent at the end of the day.
Yes. So we have so many questions that are coming in, and so from Dennis, can a journalist do stories and air them on social media without rubbing shoulders with the employer, or all stories must be aired on the same station that you work for?
Well, once it airs on on your employer's TV station, then you can definitely post it. But remember, you're not an independent journalist, if I get the question correctly, in that particular sense. You're employed to a certain company. Yes, you can do your own things on the side, but remember, the contracts are legally binding. So, I mean, if you go and if you do that and, you know, a different platform takes it, that will definitely not augur well with the HR department. You can mark my word.
So amazing questions. Thank you so much for the information, and I hope you people are taking notes. Everyone who's joined in, I hope you are taking notes, because this other question is how should you be prepared to have your audience? I don't know, it's framed differently, but I'm guessing maybe it's also something to do with identifying your audience. How do you identify your audience?
Identifying your audience, well, that's definitely a challenge. And I must say, even for those of us who might be in the industry, we're still learning who exactly our target, who exactly your audience is, what do they want and all that. Because once you've satisfied that, you definitely meet the expectations. So having your own audience can be perceived to, you know, already building a brand, having your own YouTube page, a little bit of following here and there, you know, posting your content even before you get an employer. If that's the point you was trying to make, I think that's that's quite important, and it goes without saying, because what exactly you bringing on the table that someone who's a little bit more established or older, for that matter, doesn't have, because we're all still fighting for these jobs. It's not just the youth in the society who might be unemployed. There are also those who have been declared redundant and they still don't know what to do. They have the skills and experience as well. So once you get a chance to showcase what you have as a journalist, whether in print or HR or whatever you take, or PR as well, sorry, I mean, hold it with both hands, just perfect the art, get to know your audience and satisfy the audience, and that will definitely save you a lot of trouble. Yeah.
All right. So I think this is the last question. Also, does it cause friction when between you and your employer when you get your stories killed off? Yeah.
Well, yes. Friction is definitely there when. Yeah, because not every story is worth going on air. The reason the editor is there is actually to take a look at all sides of the story, whether the story is totally not biased. You have all the affected persons voicing their story. So at times stories are not balanced, and that's why they get killed. That might be a reason, and other reasons as well. So it does cause friction, and I won't lie, it definitely hurts, because you've put so much time and energy into perfecting this story, this narrative, and trying to sell it to the public, only for it to get shot down at the budding stage. It definitely causes a lot of friction, I will not lie. I can see one. What's your take on journalists who are picked based on how good they look? Well, that's a good question. I think it's Cindy Ajumba who's asking. Well, I think it's common knowledge. There are individuals who are picked on, how good you dress, what image you portray out there. And we cannot run away from this fact, because at the end of the day, media or TV is a visual and audio as well. You need to look the part, and you also need to sound the part. It definitely rubs shoulders, but do not dismiss everyone with a pretty face, because at the end of the day, if you want to be limited to how you look or how you dress, you limit yourself, But if you go the extra mile and actually buffer your content, your conversation. If you have an interest in political stories or political interviews, try and do them a little bit here and there and perfect them along the way, because later on it will definitely be an added advantage to you as an individual. So pretty faces do get a little bit of extra mile, because what I explained, it's audio and visual, but at the end of the day, what you give out as content will definitely sell you better than the makeup you're wearing. Welcome back.
Jesse, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's wrong with my internet today.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
All right. Yes, but actually the last question I wanted to ask you is about money management. In that space, people look at the money side of it. People say that people in the media industry earn a good amount of money. I don't know. But how do you manage your money better, and advice to young people who are getting into the media industry? Yes.
Okay. So where will I start? With the advice to the people entering the media industry in terms of money. Not everyone will get their dream paycheck, number one, or you might get it and it might come later on. Yes. So the common narrative that, guys in media are paid well. Yeah, there are definitely guys who get money, and there are those still in media who don't really get that much. So it depends with your financial knowledge, how you actually balance your payments and all that, because at the entry point, I will not lie to people, the entry point will not be your dream paycheck. definitely.
Yes.
But you can work towards it, because the employer will definitely see the value. And the good thing with media, you can't hide it. I mean, if the following is increasing, if the punch, the articulation, and all that is bringing in more audience, then you can definitely approach your employer and say, "Hey, I've made certain strides, and I think it deserves a little bit more." So one thing, do not expect pesa pap until you get into it and
Yes.
you're rolling in money. I think that's a common misconception, especially with the current times, because media industry, just like every other industry, is taking a hit, and they're trying to look at their wage bill. So the
Yeah.
chances of you getting hired straight from campus, with, let's say, over 300K is a little bit too much, but you might start somewhere. So the financial knowledge you have will definitely get to carry you through at the end of the day. Because remember, as we mentioned, media is a little bit flashy. You got to look the part, you got to spend a little bit here and there. There's that public expectation when you are seen maybe pandaing or climbing a matatu. Hey, unafanya niko,
Yes.
all that challenge. But don't get into that cocoon that you end up buying a car and not saving. Or not saving or not investing, and investing on
Yes.
clothes and your look and your suits and all that. Because at the end of the day, there'll always be someone younger who might come and take your job. There might be someone
Yes.
who's invested heavily in the art. And I mean, it's not fair. You're employed, so you have to be
Yes.
adjusting with the fact that spending your money knowingly, knowledgeably, is very important. Save as much as possible. Put some money aside for the tough times, like right now, with many media industries or companies being affected. It definitely comes in handy. Yeah, yeah.
All right. We should be coming to a close because shortly we'll be getting that message of you've got 60 seconds
Oh,
left.
60 seconds. Let me just answer one. I can see someone
Yes.
asking opportunities for students on internship and attachment.
Yes.
Yes, there are. Most companies usually post them on their social media, not really social media platforms, but their websites as well. But it wouldn't hurt to get to know someone who's working there so they can inform you in case such opportunities are there. So definitely there are opportunities for, campus ongoing students and those who have just finished in terms of attachment and internships. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you so much, Jesse, for today, and thank you for hosting Centonomy Campus Edition on your page. So for everyone who's joined in, we'll be having these conversations every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. On Centonomy Campus Edition on different topics around young people across board, and you can also send in your topics that you have or things that you want to be addressed. What you'll notice is we won't have just guests from Kenya. We are going around Africa as well, so as we are expanding, so be on the lookout for that. Expect different people all together. So thank you, Jesse, for starting us off on this series.
Okay, if I can add my voice,
Yes.
perhaps going forward, you can schedule a Zoom meeting or something, because I can see from the comments, they're saying 1 hour. You can definitely cover a lot, but not enough. Yeah.
Yes, so we will definitely be doing that. Check out, we'll be having more events separately on Zoom, so we will be doing that as well. So before the time ends, I don't know whether you have any final words for youth in media who've joined us today and who will be watching later.
Well, final words, I think, don't let the fire burn. There might be challenges, in terms of penetration into the media industry, or in terms of building your brand and relevance as well. But keep the fire burning. That's it. Yeah. And try and ask for as much help as possible from guys you look up to, or guys who might have been in your position. That might also give you a clarity, so you know what exactly to focus on. Yeah.
All right, I can see someone saying we need Jesse back. I think we need to plan this. We need to plan this again. Yes, and we
yes.
will work on it
Yeah.
and see how we can also just answer more questions around it. So thank you so much. And as someone has even just mentioned, please save the live. I missed because I was late. So when you can save it on your end, and then we'll
Okay.
also download it and post it on the Centonomy Campus Edition Instagram page.
Coolio.
All right. Thank you very much, Jesse.
Thank you. It's a pleasure hosting you on my page. Next time, I hope you host me on yours.
Yes.
Ah, yeah.
All right. Thank
Okay. Bye
you.
bye.